Hi, this is Andrea from the Desteni Forum, and I'm going to be communicating today about some of the general experiences that I've had while being with Desteni and the people here who are involved with Desteni. Now, in the time that I came to Desteni, I was in quite a point in my life, and what I'm going to be sharing in these videos will specifically be focused on the aspects of myself where the people who are involved with Desteni have assisted and supported me in assisting and supporting myself, to basically get to a point where in all areas of my life I am able to support myself, use common sense, take self-responsibility, and basically stop my pre-programmed design, which would have been for me at this stage, either I would have been in a mental hospital, or I would have been on drugs, or I would have been dead, or I would have been involved in some black magic cult sacrificing babies. Because if I look at where I was when I came here, I was heading in that direction. I would have gone either the route of worshipping the darkness and becoming very dark and sadistic and satanic, one could say, or I would have gone the white light route and I would have studied more in the field of healing and, you know, white light and love and law of attraction and all of that stuff, because I've observed my pre-programmed design that was busy coming up before and at the time that I met the people here at Desteni. And I was definitely going the route of either becoming a white light worker or self-destructing, you know. Because when I came here, or when I met the people from Desteni, I had severe depression. I was involved in, you could say, dark magic. I had started a business, but I was in extreme turmoil. I could not direct myself effectively to take care of myself, to support myself within the system financially. I had completely separated myself from the system, from money, from myself. I was at a point where I was in such self-loathing and such low self-esteem that I was rejecting the world, which I perceived to be the world. In other words, I was locking myself in my room and involved in, you know, magic and casting of spells and Ouija board and communicating with demons and getting demon possessed, and I was in a cycle where what I perceived I was doing was I was rebelling against the system. But actually, in the last couple of years, I've realized that I was pushing against myself and rebelling against myself. Because obviously, you know, from what I've realized, everything is always about self. So I was symbolically, metaphysically, on all levels, I was busy self-destructing. So the one point that I would like to discuss in this video is the point around money and how my involvement with the people at Desteni has assisted me immensely to take on the point of how I view money, how I work with money, and why in the first place I had such an immense fear of money, which was actually, I realized through quite a couple of years of working with the point and having to face the point, it wasn't that I distrusted money and did not see money as valid within the world. It was that I did not see me. And if you You see, unfortunately, within our pre-programmed design, as it is now, the human value system, and particularly at that point in time, my value system was linked to purpose and value within the world. And because the world exists as a system, and because the world exists as a system based on monetary value, as the system exists now, as you see it around you, everything is about money and value and purpose and function within the system, the world that we know it. And because I was discarding me and abusing me, I would not connect and associate with money, because I was completely disregarding my own self-value, and because the system regards self-value as what money you have, what your purpose is in the system, what work you do, what functionality you have, and because I did not value myself, I would not place myself within the system, and I would not give myself the sense of value that the world sees people as having. You know, I didn't want to work, I didn't want to be labeled anything that had to do with this world. And bringing that back to self, it's, you know, what I realized while looking at the point is that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to accept me, it's that I wasn't willing to accept me as the world accepted people. So growing up already, I had a very strained relationship with my father and my mother, and because of that strained relationship, I grew up not understanding what it is to be accepted, not understanding what it is to be loved and taken care of. I did not understand intimacy. And therefore one grows up from the family structure. If you don't get to know intimacy and trust and a sense of value within the family structure, you grow up, and this is what I experienced, not being able to give that to yourself because your point of reference was never there. So I could not give myself self-love, self-trust, self-value. And therefore, you could say I was more shut down at the point where I left school. I was shut down to the point of looking for value within things outside of myself. I just did not recognize anything. I did not recognize finding love and recognition in others. I did not find it within world systems. I did not find it, therefore, within myself. So I was blank, you could say. I was completely blank, which caused immense depression and self-loathing, because now you have to live in the world, you have to support yourself and feed yourself, and you do not have any point of reference with regards to taking care of yourself. So my experience was I completely rejected the world, anything to do with money, anything to take care of myself, and that in itself created a vicious cycle, because in not working in the system and supporting myself, because I did not have a point of reference of what it meant to be self, to love self, to take care of self, and because of not wanting to seek validation outside of myself, because I didn't even know what validation was, I was not willing to link into the normal frame that people will utilize. Oh, I'm going to have a family and friends and find my love and acceptance in the world through, my sport and hobbies and the things that I give value to. I was just numb to everything. So this in itself, as I said, created a vicious cycle, because in not finding my place in the world and being able to take care of myself and not finding any point of me, self-love, value, I then would resent me even more. So the cycle of self-hate compounded to the point that when I found the people at Desteni and got involved with the people at Desteni, I was at such a low point of depression and self-hate and low self-esteem that I was in an absolute state. So now I had started a little business. I studied kinesiology, I studied energy medicine, I studied reiki, I studied various forms of energy healing and alternative therapies, because I saw that that could be something that I would do in this world, which was assisting others, because that was a point that I wanted to give myself, but I did not know how, so I studied in that field. And then I started a business where I did kinesiology and energy work with people and animals. But I did not have it again within me to actually push myself to make anything of it. You know, I, for example, had such fear of money and fear of taking money from others, because again, that was a point of self-worth. Oh, don't give me money. Please don't give me money. That I would often completely undercharge with, you know, I was highly qualified within the field of kinesiology, but I was not willing to charge my clients what my lecturers were suggesting I charge people. I was always charging the minimum fee and using the excuse of, oh, you know, it's hard times and people, they also require some assistance, and, you know, who am I to overcharge them? I should rather assist them. And, you know, people have animals and it's really difficult to pay for and take care of animals. So if I can do sessions on their animals for free, then at least the animal is being assisted. And I used that excuse as my justification for a very long time. And then at some stage, you know, my business wasn't doing well, and I then started developing high blood pressure. I was very young at that stage. Well, young, I was 28, and I ended up in hospital one night because of extensive panic attack that took me to the point where I felt like I was having a heart attack, and I couldn't breathe, and I went to the hospital, and they tested my heart and everything, because it felt to me like I was dying, boy. And the guy said, look, the doctor suggested that I go and see a psychiatrist, and said, and then your blood pressure is very high. And then weeks after that, you know, I started basically from being in an energetic, stressed state in my world, because I was completely worked up and stressed out. My adrenaline was running the whole time. I was very skinny. And then I experienced what a lot of therapists and doctors would refer to as I basically crashed. So one day my body decided I can't contain and maintain this adrenal rush anymore, where I was living on fear and energy, and all the systems just started shutting down. My body stopped producing adrenaline, and all the systems associated started basically showing signs of going into stress. So my kidneys were showing stress, and my liver, and I couldn't eat properly. And then I started experiencing dizziness, constant dizziness, panic attacks the whole time. I went to have my blood pressure checked, and they said it's excessively high. So I went to a doctor, and he put me on high blood pressure medication. So now I'm 28 and I'm on high blood pressure medication, and I still don't know how to assist and support myself to make money. You know, I was still stuck in that point, and now my health was starting to fail. I had at that point turned to alcohol, and was every night basically drinking myself to sleep. And I would some nights wake up in my own vomit, you know, some nights wake up just passed out on the floor. And now my body, with all of this, I couldn't even drink anymore. I would literally bring the glass to my face, and everything, this nausea would just build up, and this instant headache. And I could actually feel my liver and kidneys just going, actually the actual organ just like cringing, just going, no, please, no more. So with this development of me becoming dizzy and lightheaded and bowel movements, like if I had to go anywhere or do anything, my body would go into that reactive shock mode, and my bowels would just want to go, and I would become dizzy. So I would have to, if I got in my car to go somewhere, to a job interview or anywhere, I would literally have to stop at the nearest garage to go to the toilet and sit on the toilet, pushing this point here just so I wouldn't faint, and just focus on not passing out to get to the next point. So when I met the people who were at that stage already involved at that stage, the website hadn't been created yet. It hadn't been given a name. It was just a small group of people who were working with the dimensions, Bernard and Sunette and Desteni, and they were already, the portal was already very active in having the beings come through and just communicate their experiences about what is going in the afterlife, what is happening in the dimensions, the design of the matrix of the unified field, the design of mankind. So they were extensively already at that stage busy investigating everything. So when I came along, basically then the guy who I was dependent on, I was kind of in a relationship with him at that stage. He was my financial support, and he just left. And my business wasn't doing well enough for me to be able to financially support myself. So when this guy disappeared, I was in an absolute state. And at that stage, Bernard was phoning me regularly. I would sometimes visit them. He was phoning me to just see how I'm doing. He was aware on his side that I was at a turning point in my life. And the day that I was just sitting on a couch just crying, everything had just fallen flat. And he phoned me and he said, "So how are you doing?" And I just cried. I just said to him, it's all just gone. And he said, "Okay, why don't you come to our house, come and sit with us and just talk." And it was very supportive being with everybody. And I basically explained to them my situation, and they said to me, "Look, why don't you move in here? We'll find something, what work can you do?" I said, "I'm not qualified to do anything. I'm a light weenie. I can only do, energy healing and kinesiology, and other than that, I'm not trained to work in an office," for example. They said, "Don't worry, we'll sort it out as we go along." So I moved in with them, and it took me quite a long time to stabilize myself, because obviously I was at that stage on medication, as I mentioned, and everything stressed me and everything spooked me, because now I am this blank, empty shell. I have no point of self-support. At that stage I had Jack as my guide still, and starting to work with Bernard and Sunette in the dimensions. When Jack was taken away, meaning the point was taken on of him not being my guide anymore because I was too dependent on him, then that was a big point for me. And now my only support structure is something outside of me telling me what to do, how to live, when to speak, what not to speak. That was gone. And I had to start from the beginning. And it was suggested to me, work with self-forgiveness. Take on each and every point where Jack stood as your support, and where you perceived that you needed him and that you loved him, everything outside of yourself, and bring it here and forgive that you required that point, that you believe that you need something outside of you to be able to exist and live. And I took on that point of self-forgiveness and self-honesty. It was not easy. For someone... But absolutely, the support that was in place was just, I wouldn't have been able to walk through that point if the support was not in place. And, Desteni when I got there were people that they were already supporting financially, and within, the point of getting the people to walk through their life problems and patterns and get to a point of stability and self-support. And I came along, and for them to, you can imagine here, people, they are successful in their businesses, they have a specific outcome in mind, meaning they're already looking at where is it that they would like to go with the research that they've done, into the design of man, and they see this massive problem, but it exists as humanity. Now they've got these beings coming to them, or they come across beings who have lost everything, who are like myself. I either turned to drugs, or I died, or I became a light worker and just floated around in any way being delusional about myself and about the world. And they actually would take people in and say, okay, we are now going to work with you for the next couple of years, this one person, to assist and support you in becoming stable so that you can eventually either go back into the world, support yourself effectively, or participate in what we're doing. Many people that they've taken in has simply been to get that person to the point where they can go back into the world and they can effectively support themselves, and they can stand at a point where they can share with others the experience that they have had. Others have come and it's been decided, okay, you stay here and participate in what we're doing. So the group that's here now, we're specifically working with, the desteniiprocess and the courses that are being launched and all the projects that are being launched, the book projects, everything that is being done has taken years for the people here to prepare the way financially for us to be able to do what we are doing. And just for them to prepare each one, like myself, has been massive. I mean, I'm just looking at my own experience. Like I said, I was petrified of money. I was low self-esteem, self-hate, absolute depression. And they worked with me just for the last, it's been 4 or 5 years now, just working with that point of supporting me. Taking on each point, which is what these vlogs are about, the point that I'm referring to now is the point of fear of money. So I was suggested to work with all the aspects of fear of self-acceptance, self-value, so that you can start seeing money as not this big thing which, oh my God, if I don't have it, I'm nothing, I'm nobody in the world, but get back to a point where we're standing equal to money and saying, okay, look, the money system as it is now is one of inequality, it is one of abuse. All right, but for me to get to that point where I have to stand equal and say this is unacceptable, we have to change the system as it is so that everybody gets to live a dignified life. To get to that point, I mean, it's taken me years to just recognize, first of all, where I was fearing money and placing money above me and something that is, other people get to have it, but I don't. And just to get to a point where, okay, money. Okay, so I first had to start working with money myself. I remember, for example, which was quite funny, I had never owned a car. So it got to a point where Bernard suggested, now it's time for you to get a little car. I went into absolute fear. I was beside myself with fear and apprehension, and I had to face that point with breathing and look at, why am I going into fear? This is such a cool opportunity. I'm being told, here's a car allowance. And I went into absolute fear, and I then worked with breathing and the point of self-forgiveness. Okay, what am I fearing? The point of self-responsibility, the point of self-trust. Can I do this? Am I worthy of it? All that mind bullshit that comes up, which I had accepted and allowed from the point that I was very young, just to accept, okay, here's a car, the salary, spending money on myself, taking care of myself, clothing, the basic things. Oh, I want to go and buy myself something nice. A reaction comes up, work with that. For years now I've been working at that point of, oh, I would like to get this for myself. And watching as reactions come up and points of, oh, but shouldn't you? Or you shouldn't be? Or what about the starving children? Just to get to the point of equalizing myself in relation to self-value. Watch what triggers when you're working with money. See what self-value points come up. And that's been a very interesting journey. That has been the point that I've been working with here with regards to money, and that I would not have been able to do it if it was not for the support structure that is in place, and the diligence and the patience of the people here. To take on myself and a few others and walk with that being every step of the way. And I mean, if you can imagine the costs involved for the people who are involved here, who have taken it upon themselves, as I said, they prepared the way years before Destiny even started to be able to do this. So for them to not live a grand, big, special life that like they could have done, but to now say, okay, we take this money and our resources and our time and our lives, and we are going to invest it into Destiny. And everything possible that we can do with our time that we have with Destiny, establishing foundation points like the desteniiprocess and the courses to be able to get others to support themselves. So in other words, what a few of us have been able to do, we are now taking globally. And it has been a really interesting communal view, meaning when we speak about an equal money system, that is what is happening already at Destiny. The entire community of Destiny, as the farm, as the group here, as everything that we do is set up as the point of equality, to already establish the point of everything here is equal. And it's just the point that I wanted to share of my own experience of having to walk the point of self-value in relation to money, and realizing then, the important thing that I realized was that if I had to go back in time now, would I necessarily be this new person? Oh, I have this understanding. Not necessarily. Because when I discussed the point with Bernard, for example, he asked me the question, if you could go back in time now, would you do things differently? And I placed myself back there, and I could see again that the strain of having to work in the system for a little salary, and would, again, as who I know myself to be, as somebody who sees the world for what the hell it actually is, that this is bullshit. This inequality and abuse and accepting the world the way it is bullshit. So I'm very grateful that I was given the opportunity to work with myself and to get to this realization, oh, if I can see that that point is still there, meaning that I would still see the problem and I would still within myself go, I cannot see myself accepting the system the way it is and being part of it. That the problem then I realized, that's where for me, I realized the point of an equal money system, and that is the only solution, because I cannot go back to that point of just accepting the system as it is and knowing that our children and their children and all the generations to come that will get to live on this planet will be trapped in the same cycle of the money system. And to me that is unacceptable. And to me that is why an equal money system is the only solution, because if I look at my own experience of self-abuse, and that was all linked to, because I couldn't support myself financially and I couldn't get to the point of giving me value as the system expects us to have value. I just could not get to that. And that's all linked to money. Every person's, we've now researched and looked at all human behavior. And if you go and look at even your own experience and where you started shifting and changing your personality to try and fit into the system, and the decisions and choices that each one of us made, and that's linked to money and survival, or surviving in the system. You could even say to me, oh no, but my choices to be in certain relationships, that wasn't linked to money per se. Look at it again. To survive in the system, we all become a certain personality, and that is linked to survival. And if everybody from birth was provided for, and you got to live in this world, you wouldn't come into this world immediately having to survive and having to become a personality and make certain choices based on who am I going to become in this world to be better, to look better, to get the best man, husband, wife, to raise the healthiest children, to earn the best money. It always comes down to survival, fear of not having, fear of death, fear of not being able to eat and survive in the system. So that was what I realized in relation to, wow, this is a global point. Every single human being is experiencing what I've experienced. And that the resources that have gone into it from the people here has been immense. And it's been fascinating that I also realized that one cannot necessarily do this by yourself. You know, there are a lot of people out there in the world who want to make a change. They see there's a problem, but they're trying to do it alone. And I wouldn't have been able to do it alone. I mean, I would have scratched somewhat of a surface if I had tried to, within my understanding, to go at it alone. The system would have flattened me, because you need to take on the points that require direction within the system as the system. You need to change the system as it is now into a system of equality, and then each person can live. So what we are working with is the equality-based systems, such as equal money, and then the Desteni process, where it's courses that people, where we work on ourselves, self-support, coming back to a point of self-responsibility through self-forgiveness, and then merging the two, meaning stabilize the being within their world financially, stabilize the being within themselves, and then we walk as a group, as humanity, not accepting and allowing the world system as it is anymore, because who you are is now changed, and you are directive and self-supportive and self-trusting, self-loving. You are here in the physical, and now you can walk, and now you can say, okay, this world system, I do not accept and allow it as it is, and as a group we work together to get to that.